What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to dive right into this thing today. If you have been paying attention only to Trump's speech last night, which who could blame you for doing so? It was one hell of a speech. But if you've only been paying attention to the speech last night, a pretty big thing happened within the last 24 hours as well, which is Trump actually imposed the tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And people are kind of clowning Trudeau's response to it, acting like he's acting like we went to war or something like that, and using words like trade war and everything. But this is actually a pretty big deal for them, and it kind of goes back to the video that I made the other day about Trump actually wanting Canada to become a 51st state, so to speak. But let's dive into this. Let's see what's actually happening with the tariffs that have been imposed on Canada. First and foremost, let's hear it from the source themselves. This is off of whitehouse.gov. Addressing an emergency situation, the extraordinary threats posed by illegal aliens and drugs, including deadly fentanyl, constitutes a national emergency under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Until the crisis is alleviated, President Donald J. Trump is implementing a 25% additional tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico and a 10% additional tariff on imports from China. Energy resources from Canada will have a lower 10% tariff. President Trump is taking bold actions to hold Mexico, Canada, and China accountable to their promises of halting illegal immigration and stopping poisonous fentanyl and other drugs from flowing into our country. This order makes clear that the flow of contraband drugs like fentanyl to the United States through illicit distribution networks has created a national emergency, including a public health crisis. Chinese officials have failed to take the actions necessary to stem the flow of precursor chemicals to known criminal cartels to shut down money laundering by transnational criminal organizations. So essentially, the drugs are coming into the U.S. through the Canadian and Mexican borders. The Mexican border has been buttoned up really tight lately. Now it's Canada's turn. China's getting looped into it all because the chemicals to make fentanyl are coming from China, and China knows why people are buying these chemicals, and apparently they're not doing anything to put a stop to it. And if you don't know about the amount of fentanyl deaths, it just completely outranks so many things. It actually is a national crisis. The amount of people that are dying from fentanyl overdoses, it actually is a huge deal, and it actually does need to be addressed. But on that note, let's take a look at what Canada had to say in response to this. Trudeau came out and he made some comments on it last night. Let's see what specifically he had to say.
So today, the United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator.
So can I ask you guys something here? First of all, Zelensky's a murderous dictator. A lot of U.S. presidents are murdering bastards who do terrible things. Running a country, it kind of goes hand in hand that you got to do some crazy stuff. Not to say that Putin hasn't done some extremely crazy stuff. The guy is a literal dictator. But that being said, we should have strong relationships with countries all over the world. When we built a relationship with North Korea, things started improving, and had Trump stayed in office, things between our two countries would have gotten better. They don't get worse when you build strong relationships, especially if you have high fences to protect those relationships, so to speak. So this attack on Trump that and he's trying to have a good relationship with Putin. It's one thing if Putin is like, hey, I need you to do this, and then Trump does it, which isn't what's going on here. Trump isn't getting bullied around by Elon. He's not getting bullied around by Putin. All this guy is doing is building relationships and essentially trying to have good relationships with people the U.S. has essentially historically had terrible relationships with. So to use that as a point to attack him is ridiculous. Part two, Trudeau stepped down. Not that long ago, he stepped down as Prime Minister of Canada. He coincidentally did this after a meeting with Donald Trump before Trump was even president. You want to talk about dictators. I know Trump is saying that these tariffs are only because of the drugs and things like that are happening. But to be perfectly honest, I think Trump has a beef with Trudeau in specific. The things that Trudeau did during the trucker protests in Canada, two people that didn't want to get the COVID vaccine, who were viewed as conservative, which Trump has a soft spot for. Trudeau was a maniac to these people. If you were associated with these protests, he would go in and legally take all the money in your bank account. He would confiscate your money for protesting his regime. If you hear from, YouTubers that live in Canada, I mean, I see channels that have nothing to do with politics. There's a very famous Star Wars channel that's based in Canada. It has nothing to do with politics. He did a video on what it was like to live in Trudeau's Canada. Check out some of the clips from it right here.
It's going to be a totally different video. It's a political video, which is something I've never touched ever on this channel. And it'll shed some light for those of you who have come to know me pretty good by this point, and I feel like you guys are a part of my life. I've let you in my life for over 8 years now, coming on to 9 years, and vice versa. And, it's going to be asked. People are going to ask me, what do you think of the Prime Minister of Canada stepping down? And I'm happy. I'm really happy. You guys have probably seen me dance around a lot of subjects online over the last 9 years that this guy has been in power, and being very careful with my choice of words. And that's just like right now. And that's because of, living in this totalitarian kind of dictatorship in a first world country. It's weird. Yeah, living here is, if I can explain it to you, it's like if you didn't like The Acolyte, then, you're called this, that, and the other thing, and you're put into a box. Only this time, you don't get canceled by random people on Twitter with 2 followers. You get, like, you could have your bank account seized or frozen, or, I don't know, next time you want to fly, maybe they're going to give you a hard time, or, it's, there's a lot of unknowns, in my opinion, here. And living here has been really... I was born and raised in Vancouver. I'm 34 years old, law-abiding citizen. I pay my taxes. I've paid my taxes, always. And I yet still live in fucking fear because I don't know what this dude is going to do. Just a couple weeks ago, I got an email that he wants to take away all my guns. You guys remember that gun channel I created years ago? I love guns. I love shooting at the range. I love target practice. Those still exist in Canada, oddly enough. The channel got deleted. There's a bill called Bill C-11, which you might have heard me mention. Trudeau pushed this forwards. And if you're a Canadian YouTuber or streamer, or you have some sort of an online platform, if you say something he doesn't like, who knows what happens? Go read about it. Bill C-11. There have been some interesting cases already. He has divided Canada and Canadians so much. There is only division here. The price of things and the amount of tax that this guy takes out of Canadians and Canadian companies is... There's a reason Vancouver and BC are the most expensive places to live. Groceries, housing, taxes. You get taxed on the money you take out of your bank account, the money you make, then what you take out, then what you buy. And then again, at the end of the year. It is insane here, man. The amount of money that goes to the government. And everyone always talks about healthcare. Healthcare in Canada is free. Why do you think? And it takes you 6 months to get an appointment. And then when you finally get it, the doctor's just like, not going to do anything about it. Unless you get private healthcare. And that's even more money. And you pay more tax on that. It is a very interesting place to live over the last 9 years because of Trudeau and the amount of division and oppression that he has put on his people. And he promised us something completely different. I don't even know if this channel is going to be around after this video. I don't know if the next time I want to go travel, I'm going to get a hard time. I have no idea. Best believe if I do, I'll probably document it. Because at this point, that's the only kind of thing I can do. Shed light on this. And hopefully him stepping down is a move in the right direction. Now, this isn't a victory. A victory would be an election. An election, so what I think would happen is that Pierre Poilievre would win and hopefully start to fix Canada. Everyone just wants to live a happy life. Everyone wants to live comfortably with freedom to be able to just speak their mind. And I haven't felt comfortable to speak my mind online in nine years. I feel like I've had a freaking gag order on the stuff I say, and that's why a lot of you have probably been like, why is he's like a sharp dude for the most part? Why does he sometimes dance around certain questions or say things that isn't really in alignment with how he normally would be so brash and open with other topics? That's because I'm concerned about what I do say. It could be considered a hate crime or whatever, and you get thrown in jail or taxed or shit, take my guns away or shut my channel down, or I don't know, dude. I have no idea.
So you saw that stuff. That's just a random guy. Trudeau, when he talks about dictators, bro, you are a dictator, okay? And that's why your people wanted you to step down. And to be clear, when he did step down, finally, after his meeting with Trump, it wasn't met with sadness and depression. Check this out. Those are the Canadian people celebrating this man stepping down. So with all due respect, the only reason he's still in office is because they're waiting for his replacement to be chosen. You are a lame duck, sir. You're going to be gone in 2 weeks. The entire country hates you. You drove your country into the ground. Don't talk to us about what we should be doing over here.
Make that make sense. Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite. But we will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake. At the moment, the U.S. tariffs came into effect in the early hours of this morning, and so did the Canadian response. Canada will be implementing 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
We don't care.
Starting with tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods immediately,
We don't
and
care.
tariffs on the remaining $125 billion of American products in 21 days.
We don't care. We don't care, bro. Trudeau himself has admitted, he admitted to Trump, that if Trump stopped subsidizing Canada, that if the U.S. stopped just giving Canada money just so they could exist, Canada would die on the freaking vine. Canada would cease to exist as a country. Bro, you have nothing to threaten us with.
Time. Should these tariffs not cease, we are in active and ongoing discussions with provinces and territories to pursue several non-tariff measures. Measures which will demonstrate that there are no winners in a trade war.
There might not be winners,
Now,
but there are losers.
just like I did a month ago, I want to speak first directly to the American people.
I'm listening.
We don't want this.
Good.
We want to work with you as a friend and ally. And we don't want to see you hurt either. But your government has chosen to do this to you. As of this morning, markets are down, and inflation is set to rise dramatically all across your country. Your government
not our
has
country,
chosen
pal.
to put American jobs at risk.
This is propaganda, guys. This is propaganda. The markets are going to respond because the markets don't like announcements of tariffs. Make no mistake, the markets will be fine. This is the solution. It is not the problem. Do not listen to this man.
Thousands of workplaces that succeed because of materials from Canada or because of consumers in Canada.
So, again, this guy has nothing to threaten us with. We take those materials from Canada to help Canada. We don't need your energy. We don't need your lumber. We don't need anything you send us. We don't even need your maple syrup, bro. We don't need it. We do not need it. We have everything we need right here. Right here. We're the most idiotic country to have the most oil of any landmass and not drill for it. And instead purchase it and make other countries wealthy. We're not doing it anymore.
Or both. They've chosen to raise costs for American consumers on everyday essential items like groceries and gas, on major purchases like cars and homes, and everything in between. They've chosen to harm American national security,
we'll be fine,
impeding access to the abundant critical minerals, energy, building materials, and fertilizers that we have and that the United States needs to grow and prosper. They've chosen to launch a trade war that will, first and foremost, harm American families. They've chosen to sabotage their own agenda that was supposed to usher in a new golden age for the United States.
Which it will, and it already is.
And they've chosen to undermine the incredible work we've done together to tackle the scourge that is fentanyl, a drug that must be wiped from the face of the earth.
Now let's get to it.
So on that point, let me be crystal clear. There is absolutely no justification or need whatsoever for these tariffs today. Now, the legal pretext your government is using to bring in these tariffs is that Canada is apparently unwilling to help in the fight against illegal fentanyl.
And yet?
Well, that is totally false.
So he's about to start talking about all the things that they've always done, and then proceeds to say all the things that they're doing additionally now that these tariffs are here. Literally proving that the tariffs themselves are what caused him to step up and do additional.
Let's look at the facts. Our border is already safe and secure. Far less than 1% of fentanyl flows and less than 1% of illegal crossings into the United States comes from Canada. But we acted because we know we can always do better. We responded to concerns, including from the President, by implementing an ambitious $1.3 billion border plan. A border plan that includes generational investments in new AI and imaging tools to stop the flow of fentanyl in its tracks, stronger coordination and information sharing with American agencies, along with the deployment of drones, helicopters, and additional personnel to keep our border secure. Now, a month ago, as part of an agreement with the United States that paused the tariffs, we made further commitments. We appointed Kevin Brasseau as our fentanyl czar, a man who dedicated his multi-decade career in law enforcement to combating organized crime networks and drug trafficking.
So this is all, everything he's saying that they're doing is because these tariffs were on the horizon, just so you know. So when he says you didn't need to do these tariffs, guys, well, why weren't you doing all this?
We designated 7 drug cartels, sick, evil groups who cynically profit off the pain and suffering of people on both sides of the border, as the terrorist organizations that they are.
Didn't do it till we did the tariffs.
And just yesterday, we launched a new joint operations partnership supported by a $200 million investment between Canada's security and law enforcement agencies, a partnership that will enhance the coordination of information and intelligence in order to thwart criminal gangs involved in the illegal fentanyl trade.
Sounds like the tariffs are working.
And critically, our actions are working. As the U.S. Customs and Border Protection just acknowledged, there was a 97% drop in fentanyl seizures from January compared to December. to a near zero low of less than half an ounce seized in January,
We'll check
even
these
with
facts.
all the further enforcements and actions we've taken at the borders. In sum, we stepped up. We engaged closely and constructively with the president and his administration. We did everything we promised. We stuck to our word. And we did it because we believe in working together to protect our citizens. Now I want to speak directly to one specific American.
Let's hear it.
Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things. We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage, as Canada and the U.S. have done together for decades, for generations.
Listen to this, guys.
And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world.
So I'm going to stop it there. Here's the deal. Trump has a habit of cutting the fat. Maybe you guys don't remember, maybe some of you are too young, but when Trump first got into office, and his first term was Mickey Mouse compared to what he's doing now, just so you guys know. His first term, he made a lot of the same promises of what he was going to do, but he went in there and he was trying to play nice, and he was a relatively even keel president, so to speak, for as much hate as he got. But even still, when Trump got into office, you saw a mass disappearance of some very powerful famous politicians, mostly in the U.S., but also elsewhere. And the same thing is happening now, but more so outside of the U.S. Again, Trudeau met with Trump before Trump was in office. When they left that meeting, the guy's finance, the head of their finance in their government resigned. This woman, she left the Trump meeting and she resigned. And then all of a sudden everyone's going, Trudeau's going to resign, Trudeau's going to resign, Trudeau's going to resign. People have been wanting this guy to resign for a very long time. He meets with Trump one time and then he resigns. So here's the fact of it, Trudeau. So whatever you did to piss Trump off, you are now on the chopping block, bro. Trump is coming for your jugular. And make no mistake, when Trudeau calls it a war, it's going to devastate Canada. I found this video of a Canadian speaking. I wanted to show it to you guys. Check this out.
Donald Trump's tariffs are going to turn Canada into a third world country. Without exaggeration, we will soon be better known as Snow Mexico. So first, what is a tariff? A tariff is an import or export tax, meaning anything that goes into America being sold to an American company or individual will have a 25% federal tax added to it to be paid by the person who is buying the product. Now, again, this doesn't mean Canadians will have to pay 25% more, but
So why the
what it
panic?
does is it prices us out of the international market when it comes to America. Americans will just no longer buy anything from Canada.
Bingo.
To put into perspective as to how big of a deal this is, roughly 60% of our international trade.
So all these threats, every time someone says, if you put the tariffs, everything's going to be more expensive. No, everything from your country is going to be more expensive, which is going to encourage us to put money into our own country, to put money into our own businesses, to put money into our own industries, which does exactly what Trump says it does. It makes us better. It improves everything. And, you know, on the flip side, it also is going to drive Canada into the ground.
Is with America, and that accounts for 40% of our overall GDP. So our trade with America is almost
Wow.
half of our entire economic productivity, which is about to just be wiped off of our spreadsheet. And
And guys, just so you know, Canada is struggling right now. It's really bad over there, which is why so many people wanted Trudeau to resign. Their economy is in the toilet. This is a death blow to Canada.
Again, to really hammer in how serious this is, Doug Ford has said that his team has already advised him that he can expect unemployment numbers to go up by 500 to 600,000. Ontario's current unemployment
Wow.
is 600,000, meaning our unemployment is expected to double in the face of
Wow.
these tariffs and will definitely reach double-digit percentage-wise. Now, why are these tariffs being put in place? Donald Trump has cited our border as the issue. Over the recent years, the number of individuals being apprehended at the Canada-US border that are on terrorist watch lists has skyrocketed. So to put
Interesting. I thought Trudeau
as a
said that's not true.
comparison, it's roughly 350 individuals on terrorist watch list apprehended at the Canada-US border compared to 150 at the Mexico-US border, meaning Canada is now the preferred route into America for terrorist and criminal organizations because
Interesting.
of our lax immigration policies. For instance, Trudeau has turned Canada into an open border experiment over the last few years. Even just today, the Globe and Mail reported that 50,000 international students have not been showing up for class, meaning we have people that just, come here due from international student status and buy their way into Canada, essentially, and then just disappear once they're here.
I don't know what it is. I know there's all sorts of theories about why liberal politicians want to flood Western countries just with as many illegal immigrants as they possibly can. Um, but it's just a thing that you see happening. And again, there's a lot of theories as to why it's happening, but nobody can deny the fact that it is happening. And it wasn't just happening here. As this man says, it was happening in Canada as well.
Even India has launched an investigation into the amount of Indians that come here with programs like our international student program and then immediately illegally cross into America. Also, our asylum program is a massive issue. People come here. They actually, here's a rock solid case: is the Ahmed Al Didi case, who was granted Canadian citizenship despite being on video dismembering a victim for ISIS. He came here as an asylum seeker, and
this is real, guys. They actually took in a guy who was one of the people in the ISIS execution videos, and they took him in, and now he's a Canadian citizen.
Did the whole year or two long process of that and then got granted Canadian citizenship. So again, this isn't the vast majority of them that are doing this, but the small number of them that are just slipping through the cracks because Canada is run by absolute imbeciles. So again,
Not for long.
this is going to absolutely decimate Canada's economy. Every single province and territory in Canada is a larger trading partner with America than any other province. So each independent province trades with America more than anyone else in Canada. This is not minor at all. And what is our current state of governance? Well, we've got a government that is holding Canada hostage to prorogation. So in order to avoid a no confidence vote, there is no practical reason for this as far as needing to be done other than just to try to retain power for the Liberal Party so that they can shoehorn Mark Carney in as Justin Trudeau's replacement. So we've gone from having a World Economic Forum puppet to a World Economic Forum script writer become the Canadian Prime Minister.
That would be a shame.
And all of the exact same policies that have created the scenario where these tariffs are getting put on us, like, say, the open border policies, are just going to continue. I know Trudeau said he was pulling back, but he hasn't, and he won't. And neither will his replacement. And, you've got people like Doug Ford and Ottawa saying that we should go to economic war with America, despite the fact that we are completely dysfunctional. And you know what? I typically agree
what
that
you
you
wish
should
for.
negotiate through strength, and that you shouldn't, just take a fetal position when somebody is attacking you. But the hard truth is that over the last 10 years, Canada's economy has been decimated to the point that we don't have strength to negotiate from.
Yep.
We are the equivalent of somebody that has atrophied and now can't get out of a wheelchair.
Trudeau's destroyed it.
For the last 10 years, our GDP per capita has completely stagnated, if not declined. The only reason we are growing economically is because we are pouring people into this country, and which is causing way more second and third order consequences than it is solving of problems. But I guess the one silver lining here is this, is that I think the border issue is a real issue for Trump. However, I also think this is just a vendetta against Trudeau. And I think that he is likely using this whole scenario as a squeeze point in order to root out the Liberals from leadership in Canada, so that he can have a, let's say, a competent leader to act.
As I said, Trump goes in and with a I know it's literally being used now, with a chainsaw, and just shreds through things, and he says, you get to die, you get to die. It's like the president of Argentina, afuera, afuera. This is what Trump is literally doing to his political opposition, and it's beautiful. And I'll be honest with you guys, I really hope that Canada does rebound from this. I really hope that the Canadian people come together and kind of have a moment like we had in the U.S. where we just say, you know what, enough is enough. We're not on board with this. We are rising up and we are pushing back, and we are putting someone in power who's actually going to stand up, put his fist in the air and say, fight, fight, fight. I hope Canada does the same thing that we did. But the flip side of that is this. Guys, that's it for this video. Like and subscribe for more. I will see you next time.